LG Electronics have some very exciting gaming monitors on show here at CES 2026, including a brand new 39-inch ultra-wide panel format. I've been waiting a long time for a 39-inch 5120 by 2160 panel to use on my personal gaming setup, and I think this monitor that we're about to see is going to make that cut. We've also got a 27-inch 5K model with mini LED local dimming. There's a 52-inch model which runs at something like 240 Hz 5120 by 2160 as well. It's a massive monitor that we're going to check out in just a moment, so let's get into it. Thanks to MSI for sponsoring our CES coverage. Check out MSI's range of GeForce RTX 50 series graphics cards powered by NVIDIA Ada GPU architecture with advanced ray tracing and DLSS. They deliver elite airflow, they have a great thermal design and stunning aesthetics for incredible gaming performance. Included is MSI's unique 7-blade Stormforce fans which boost airflow and reduce noise. The Supreme and Vanguard models include vapor chamber cooling, while the Supreme Liquid features a 360mm radiator. All models provide advanced tuning and monitoring capabilities via the MSI Center and MSI Afterburner. Learn more about MSI's RTX 50 series via the links in the description.
Also supporting our CES coverage is Thermal Grizzly and their Cryo Sheet, an excellent alternative to thermal pastes, and because they don't use any liquid, they can never dry out. These graphene thermal pads offer very high thermal conductivity, are easy to use, are extremely durable, and can be used to maximize your CPU and/or GPU's cooling performance. So for more information, please check the links in the video description. We'd also like to thank Endorphy, creators of the award-winning Fluctus fans, available in both 120 and 140mm. These high-performance fans are designed to move air efficiently in dense spaces, with focused airflow and reduced noise. Perfect for CPU, power supplies, PC cases, and more. So to learn more, please click the links in the video description.
So this is one of the monitors that I was most excited to come and see at CES 2026, especially from LG. So it is the 39GX950B. And this could be my very next personal gaming monitor because I believe this is one of the best monitor sizes and monitor formats for gaming, especially with the new advancements that they put into this panel. So what we're looking at here is a 39-inch ultra-wide at 5120 by 2160 using a WOLED panel, 165 Hz refresh rate, and also has dual mode support, so drops down the resolution to, I believe it's 2560 by 1080 at 330 Hz. So I personally use the 34-inch ultra-wide for gaming at 3440 by 1440, but I'd prefer a slightly larger size. So the 34-inch models typically are similar to a 27-inch monitor in terms of its vertical height, but obviously you get the additional width. With the 39-inch models, they're equivalent to a 32-inch monitor in vertical height, but obviously with additional width. The problem with this size previously, especially with OLEDs, has been the lower resolution. The previous panels have just been 3440 by 1440, which is not ideal for that sort of size. We don't often see or recommend 2560 by 1440 at 32 inches, so having that in an ultra-wide sort of panel format doesn't make a lot of sense. But now that we're getting 5120 by 2160, that is a huge upgrade and increases the pixel density to 142 ppi, the same as we see from 32-inch 4K WOLEDs and QD-OLEDs. So that's really good to see. This is also a new tandem WOLED panel, so it's going to have all the same benefits as we're seeing and have tested from, say, the 1440p models last year from LG and so forth. Still uses the RGWB sub-pixel layout, so it's not the new RGB stripe from the 27-inch 4K monitor that we saw at ASUS, but RGWB is still pretty decent, especially at this sort of resolution. We're talking, as I said, 4K type resolution, very, very nice. True Black 500 spec, so that means we're going to see at least 300 nits of full screen brightness, and we're also getting DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20. So the demo that they're showing on this monitor is AI upscaling, so that's a feature that will be available on the 39GX950B and a couple of their other monitors here. So it actually seems to work quite well. They're feeding in a 1080p type image into the screen and it's being upscaled to the full 4K/5K resolution. The left is the not upscaled image, the right is the upscaled image, and as we sort of pan around, it does look better on the AI side, a bit sharper and clearer as you would expect. Now this is all being done on the monitor itself. It doesn't require a PC connection or anything, but there's no smart TV functionality. So they're not running a full TV processor, just your standard monitor OSD, which is great for gaming, but you can just choose to enable AI upscaling if you want to with lower resolution sources. So that's available across several of their displays. Unfortunately, it means we can't get a great look at the resolution on this panel natively, but yeah, let's move on. One of the issues that we saw previously with LG Display's ultra-wide panels, and also LG Electronics, of course, that made them, was the use of an 800R screen curvature. But they've changed that with this panel to be 1500R, which is going to be much more pleasant to use. LG Display the other day told us that this panel will be manufactured in both matte and glossy coatings. We're seeing the matte version here, and I believe LG Electronics will use matte for the final version. I'd probably prefer to see glossy, but at the very least, getting this panel format in any format is going to be really, really nice. So I'm super keen to check this one out and review it later. I don't have firm release date and pricing just yet. I believe it's coming out in maybe a couple of months, but yeah, this could be my very next gaming monitor, my personal gaming monitor. So yeah, super keen. So here we have the LG 27GM 950B. LG are also doing a 5K LCD gaming monitor, so 5K at 165 Hz, dual mode with 1440p. This is also a local dimming version of this monitor. So previously you might have seen our video at the MSI booth, where MSI are also doing a 2304 zone mini LED version. LG have one as well. MSI's version does use a glossy screen coating, but this one is matte, so you'll have at least two different choices depending on your usage environments. I think the glossy version might be better, will depend on the HDR scenarios and also what you're going to be ending up using it for. So I've been told that this monitor uses something special or unique called zero optical distance mini LED dimming. So essentially this is designed to minimize the gap between the LEDs and the liquid crystal layer. So at least LG says that this should be minimizing blooming, giving you a nicer quality image. It's pretty hard to see how that will work in this demo that they're running here. They're just running through some video files and that sort of thing. It will take a very specific type of content to show that effect, but hopefully we'll be able to get this panel in and fully test it. But at least it sounds interesting, because with IPS LCDs, like this panel is, there can be issues with blooming with local dimming technology, so anything that can be done to minimize that will be pretty handy. This is a Display HDR 1000 certified panel with a maximum brightness of 1250 nits, so that's pretty good as well. The MSI model we saw was Display HDR 1400, so they may have a brightness advantage there, depends on what we see in real world testing. This is also DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20. We're seeing that across a lot of LG's monitors today, so that's pretty neat to see. But yeah, so another 5K monitor. Everyone's doing 5K monitors at the moment, which is pretty cool. I think it's an interesting new format for people, especially because the dual mode is 1440p, and 27-inch 1440p is a great resolution for gaming, and at a refresh rate of 330 Hz, that also is offering you quite a lot. So yeah, we'll check this one out a bit later. I also like the new Ultra Gear designs, where they've got this flat metal plate on the bottom. We're seeing that again across a lot of other brands as well. But essentially it's flat, it's metal, it's sturdy, but you can still place items on top of it. So, sometimes I'm asked about monitor trends, like what's a good, bad monitor trend. Flat metal stands are a good monitor trend, and we're seeing that with LG here as well. This monitor is absolutely enormous. We're looking at the 52G 930B. This is a 52-inch ultra-wide monitor. It is 21:9 aspect ratio. It has a 5120x2160 resolution at up to 240 Hz. Now, it's not an OLED panel like the last two that we were looking at. This does appear to use I think they actually say here, a VA LCD panel. So yeah, it says VA 5K 2K. So yeah, that means, of course, VA LCD. It does also have a 1000R curvature, so it's extremely curved. You're going to need to sit in the optimal position away from it to get the best experience. But this is one of the largest monitors I've certainly seen, so yeah, it's really going to fill up that space. Now, 5120x2160 at a 52-inch size is a pretty similar pixel density to 2560x1440 on a 27-inch panel. So we're obviously used to that across a lot of different monitors. This is just giving you more of that pixel density, but in a much larger panel format. So it could be great for things like flight simulators, racing simulators, where you want a huge panel, or alternatively, you just want to enjoy some single or multiplayer gaming on this sort of thing. So what else is there to say about this? Well, it's VESA Display HDR 600 certified, so I'm not expecting any significant levels of local dimming, especially because they've advertised local dimming for that previous model, but not for this model. So potentially just your edge lit configuration. So not sure what to make of that, especially if it's a high-priced product, I would expect this to be quite expensive, but all the products that we've seen here at LG today don't have final pricing or release dates. I think with some of the OLEDs, they're expected around the second quarter of this year, maybe like the April-May timeframe. Not 100% sure on that, but yeah, no pricing for this. But if it is expensive without local dimming, we'll see how that goes. Now, it also has DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20 and has a matte finish as well. So all of LG Electronics' products here are using a matte finish. Seems fine for this sort of product, especially because it's a VA LCD. And you probably won't want too many distracting reflections because it's so large that a lot of light sources are going to be interacting with this in your room. So I always like to see new panel formats and new interesting things. I think for my personal setup, you know, earlier I was talking about the 39-inch. Now that's probably going to become my next gaming monitor in terms of panel format. This is probably a bit too large for my setup. I'd need even more space. You really need to be invested in a huge gaming setup for something like this. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll be able to test it in the coming months once it's available, but it's huge. It's very impressive from that standpoint. Lastly, here we're looking at the LG 27GX 790B, not because this is a new monitor for CES, it was announced and released, I believe, towards the end of last year. This is, of course, their 1440p 540Hz WOLED with dual mode, so 720p 720Hz. The reason why I want to talk about this briefly is that LG were discussing that there will be, at least in the near future, a 1000 Hz version, so they'll be bumping up the dual mode to 720p 1000 Hz, which will really compete with some of those LCDs that we've seen here at the show. We've seen some 1440p dual modes with 1000 Hz in their 720p mode on LCDs. I think Acer and Samsung had those. LG want to compete on the OLED front as well with a 1000 Hz version at some point. So not sure the timeline on that sort of thing. Hopefully we'll see it at some point in 2026. Of course, for this version of the panel, it's a matte finish and all that sort of thing. We've already tested the Asus PG27AQ WP. So if you want to have a look at how 540Hz WOLED with the new tandem WOLED panel goes, and also with the 720p 720Hz dual mode, we have testing of that available on the channel already. So check that out if you're interested. But yeah, 1000 Hz is coming at some point in the near future. All right, that does it for LG Electronics at CES 2026. It's been very interesting to see a bunch of new panel formats here at the show from LG. Again, that 39-inch ultrawide is going to be awesome. Really keen to check that one out and review it. Hopefully it's not too far away. The 52-inch model, it really is enormous, so I'm sure it's going to be appealing to some people. It's sort of a niche product, but it is seriously massive. So if you're into that, it should be available later this year. And yeah, so that's basically LG Electronics at CES. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.